I want to introduce you to a special person who knows firsthand how important the work of Dr. Fonoff and the TGen staff really is. He is a son, he is a husband, he is a father, and like many of you, someone who is part of the bedding industry, specifically a member of the Mattress Firm family. He is someone who has been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and he is someone who reminds us that this terrible disease can strike anyone at any age. And he is someone with his very own unique story. So as we welcome him, I want him to know that he is not alone and that each and every one of us is with him in this fight. Please join me in a warm welcome for Steve Burge.
Hello, I hope everyone's having a great time today. I know that I have. I first want to say thank you to everyone for allowing me to come up here and share my story. I feel like I've shared it several times, but it never gets any easier, and it never gets old. So, you know, a lot of you are from the bedding industry, and you understand the importance of the date that really all this started for me, and that was Labor Day. And like many of you, I was in stores. I was trying to make sure that business was going to operate and we were going to do the very best that we could. But what happened is I got really sick. I got so sick, in fact, that I ended up in the emergency room. And they couldn't really figure out what was wrong with me. And at that time, I was really sent home. I was sent home with antibiotics, and I was told that I had the flu and that I would get over it. It would take some time, and I did get better. It took a little bit of time, but I did get better. And then in October, I started to get really sick again. And so I went to another doctor, and we finally determined that I had gallstones, and that was causing all of my problems. And so I set up for a procedure to be done to get those gallstones taken out, and it was all normal. It was all routine up until that point. And so I went in, and I woke up after the operation, and they told me everything that went fine. And the next morning I woke up, and my wife Susan came to sit with me, and it was kind of odd that she showed up because this was a normal routine procedure. I mean, I had my car outside. I was ready to drive myself home, but she wanted to be there with me. And the doctor comes in and he says, "Yeah, Steve, everything with the procedure went fine, but you didn't have gallstones. We found a tumor." And I can tell you that was really, really difficult for me, and difficult for my wife. And we just sat there and cried. We really didn't know what to do or what to say. And over the next couple of weeks, you know, I ended up going through chemo and radiation. I ended up getting the Whipple surgery, and if you don't know about that surgery, it is probably the most invasive surgery that you can have, that there is, and it's taken me the entire year to recover from that surgery. I've had a lot of complications, and things didn't go quite as smoothly as they were promised that they would go, and usually that's the way things are, I guess. But today I'm cancer-free, and I owe that to a lot of people. I owe that to my doctors in Kansas City, who worked really hard and worked really fast to make sure that they did everything that they could do. I owe my company mattress firm for standing behind me every step of the way. And all I can say about that is a lot of companies talk a big game until the fight's brought to their doorstep. And the fight was brought to their doorstep, and they didn't waver. They didn't hesitate. They said, "We've got you, Steve, no matter what." And I just think that, you know, when I started working for Mattress Firm 8 years ago, that God knew that this was going to happen to me. And he put me in a place that he knew that I would get taken care of. And I'm just so very thankful. I want to thank Dr. Von Hoff and his team for making sure and doing everything that they can to make sure that this cancer isn't going to come back. They're working with my doctors now in Kansas City, and I'm very confident that I've got the very best team of doctors in the world working for me. And I've got the very best team looking out and making sure that I'm not going to get cancer again. And if I do, I have the very best doctors to make sure that we are going to fight it with every single thing that we have. I also want to thank Roger. Roger has been the friend that I never knew I had. I've spent over 60 days in the hospital this year, and I've spent most of that time not wanting to talk to anybody because I was in the deepest and darkest hole that you can imagine that someone would be in. And Roger didn't care. He called me, he emailed me, and he texted me until I would pick up the phone, and then I would talk to somebody. And Roger's made sure that I've seen the very best and that I would see the very best. And I know that I wouldn't be where I am now without him. So thank you very much, Roger. And I'll tell you one more story before I'm through. And really it's a story of what the difference is between going to your local doctor and going to see Dr. Von Hoff. See, I got diagnosed with this cancer at 30 years old. And, you know, if any of you guys know anything about this disease, you know, that's not supposed to happen, right? You're not supposed to get this disease at 30 years old. See, I have a genetic defect that's allowed for this cancer to come into my body. And that genetic defect's called Lynch syndrome. And see, the difference between going to your local doctor and going to Dr. Von Hoff is when you talk to Dr. Von Hoff about having Lynch syndrome, and then he talks to you about a plan for you to have so that, you know, you make sure that the cancer doesn't come back, and he goes, well, I'm going to make sure I talk to, you know, I'm going to make sure I talk to Dr. Lynch and make sure that he agrees with our plan to make sure that everything is in line with what he would think before we go forward. Is that okay with you, Steve? And you, and I said, who? Are you talking about Dr. Lynch? He was talking about the doctor who discovered my gene mutation. And that's just unbelievable. And when you are in a position of being sick and never being given an answer, and for doctors to never seem sure, Dr. Von Hoff is, honestly, he offers the most firm kind of hope that there is, because he knows the very best. He's going to give you his very best, and that's all that there is to it. So thank you very much. I appreciate y'all listening, and, you know, thank you.
I'm going to have Roger and Steve stay up here for just a second. I first want to thank Steve for having the courage to come up here and share his personal story today with all of you, because he's really been through an incredible amount. And there are just times in your life when there are intersections that happen and you're not really sure why they're all happening. And Steve talked about God putting him in Mattress Firm for a reason, and whether that's true or not. I came to this tournament about 5 years ago, and I was so blown away about how Roger Magowitz alone had pulled this industry together to fight a cause. And like many of you, you go to a lot of charity events, and it's touching, and you want to certainly, you know, donate and pitch in and help and do things. But after we merged companies, he gave me the opportunity to sit down and meet with Dr. Von Hoff. And it took me about 5 seconds to realize what Steve Burge was talking about, that I was talking to the real deal, that I was talking to someone who was really going to cure this just dreadful disease in our lifetime. And that the best chance that we have on this planet of getting that done is to help Dr. Von Hoff. And that was overwhelming me literally by the second that we needed to get involved. We needed to do what we could do to be just a little footnote in the chapter of this incredible book that he's creating that's going to help cure pancreatic cancer for people like Steve, people like Howard Young, and all the others across the world, the 35,000 people that go through this every single year. And it took the intersection of Roger and me and then meeting Dr. Von Hoff for this to happen for Steve. And it's really amazing that all of that occurred. And I feel like we're just scratching the surface, and I think that we all have got to really think about what more we can do. We've tried so hard, we've done so many things over the past couple of years, and every dollar that we've given to TGen has made an incredible difference in their lives, and I know that every dollar does that, and that's because of how focused they are. But on that note, Roger and I would like to ask Dr. Von Hoff and Michael Bessoff to come up here to receive another check from Mattress Firm. When we started this, we didn't know how the battle lines would hit our home with our people. And there's Steve and there's many other employees that I've had over the past couple of years that have been touched in their families with pancreatic cancer. And it just becomes to be more real every single day. And so we are trying to do everything that we can at Mattress Firm to help. And so this is just a small token, or a big piece of paper here, but this is a small token to help this year with pancreatic cancer. Thank you very much.
I just want to say thank you on behalf of the TGen team, and Dr. Von Hoff and his entire team, many of whom are here today. And I don't have a long speech, but I would ask the members of his team to stand if they would, please, because I know Dr. Von Hoff will be the first to tell you that this takes a village. So could everybody stand who's part of his team today? And I also want to point out that Mr. Burge is not the only one amongst us who's been touched by this disease. There are many others among you, and I won't embarrass them and have them all stand up, but believe me, I know I speak for all of them in thanking you for your generosity, for supporting this event, for getting behind Dr. Von Hoff and his team, his worldwide team that's fighting this disease. So thank you so much for all that you've done.